I'm in the streets. Max almost seems blacker than you, Stephen A. with what he's coming, with his commentary.
With all due respect, my brother,
I'm just saying, dog.
Wait a minute. Wait to finish.
I'm just saying.
I'm gonna check you right now. You don't cross the line.
You can make the case that this was the beginning of the end for Max Kellerman at the worldwide leader in woke, ESPN. Now you got to remember, Max was a very loyal comrade. For many years, Max Kellerman was a proud deacon at Woke United Methodist. He often used the ESPN platform the way it was intended to be used. Max was a brilliant associate pastor. He would deliver impassioned sermons on mythical racism. He would talk about the plague of white privilege. One of my personal favorites. It was when Max Kellerman criticized white NFL players for refusing to kneel during the national anthem. Back in 2017, Max Kellerman claimed it was embarrassing that the white man refused to disrespect our military to protest against media-created racism. Those were the good days, the memories. It almost brings a tear to Uncle Casey's eyes. You know, in most divorce cases, whether it's traditional divorce in a marriage or the divorce of a business relationship, in the vast majority of cases, the cause of divorce, it doesn't happen instantly. It doesn't happen overnight. Oftentimes, it is a very slow, gradual process. It's divorce by 1,000 cuts. For example, let's say husband and wife divorce after being married for 10 years. On paper, the cause of divorce is listed as infidelity. Perhaps the husband catches the wife having a physical and emotional affair, or the wife catches the husband spanking the wanker while looking at Chad Thundercock's Lonely Man's account. Either way, infidelity is listed as the official cause. Family and friends, they're shocked. Why is this once happy couple suddenly ending their marriage? Why are they throwing away 10 happy years over one transgression? The truth is, the infidelity is the symptom. It's the end result of years of unhappiness, years of minor transgressions, years of unresolved problems that were never addressed. 4 years ago, when it was announced that Max Kellerman was fired from First Take, which really meant he was fired from ESPN. Well, KC, that's not true. They gave Max a show on ESPN radio. He was a huge star. Yeah, his own family didn't even know that he had a show on ESPN Radio. ESPN Radio is the equivalent of death row. It's where ESPN sends media careers to patiently wait for their demise. When it was announced that Max Kellerman was fired from First Take, people naturally wanted to know why. Ratings were decent. Max Kellerman is a very skilled debater, intelligent dude, very talented. Stephen A. Smith never developed the chemistry with Max Kellerman that he shared with Skip Bayless, but compared to the polished turd that we see today, First Take was significantly better when Max Kellerman was on the show. I mean, seriously. Would you rather watch Max Kellerman or crying Ryan Clark? Would you rather see Max Kellerman in his doofus suit or Cam Newton, who looks like he was dressed by a blind stylist? The show was more interesting. They were generating more headlines in the media when Max was on the show. So, what was the cause of divorce? According to Stephen A. Smith, I didn't like working with Max Kellerman. It's just that simple. Quit asking me about Max. I'm the real star. Believe it or not, Stephen A. is telling the truth. There's not a doubt in my mind that he didn't like working with Max Kellerman. The question is why. Last night, Max Kellerman gave us the answer. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel in the description below. Today on the second channel, going to be talking about the end of Zion Williamson's NBA career. Not only is Zion Williamson one of the biggest busts in the history of the NBA, when the Pelicans are eventually sold and they leave New Orleans for a market that will actually support them, Zion Williamson will shoulder a lot of the blame. Not all of it, but Zion will carry a lot of the blame for the demise of this franchise. So if you haven't already, click the link in the description below, subscribe to the second channel. Yesterday, Max Kellerman was interviewed by Bill Simmons. Now, to my knowledge, this was the first time that Max Kellerman publicly discussed his divorce with Stephen A. Smith. For years now, Stephen A. has subtly vilified Max Kellerman. 2 years ago, he claimed that the show was stale. According to Stephen A. Smith, Max was never an athlete. He was never a journalist. It left people wondering, why in the Rudy Poo should we listen to you? What? Excuse me? Last I checked, Mina Kimes was not an athlete. She was an investigative reporter for Bloomberg. She was hired by ESPN because she wrote a heartwarming essay about how she bonded with her father over their love of the Seattle Seahawks. Mina Kimes was hired by ESPN as an NFL analyst because she sat on Daddy's knee on Sunday afternoons and watched Matt Hasselbeck and Sean Alexander. Yet somehow, this pretend NFL analyst is featured on First Take, and you want to insinuate that Max Kellerman doesn't have credibility? A pretend analyst has credibility, but Max Kellerman doesn't? In his interview with Bill Simmons, Max Kellerman revealed the real reason that he was fired by Stephen A. Smith. It was kind of subtle. You have to read between the lines, but it sounds to me like Max Kellerman was fired because Stephen A. Smith was intimidated. Watch for yourself.
If you're doing a debate show and you're a competitive person, yeah, why would you want me as a partner? You want to go 15 rounds every day with Muhammad Kellerman? That's just bad. You know, it's embarrassing. I have an idea. This is what I want to put on TV. I want to spar Bud Crawford every day for 15 rounds, and I want everyone to see it. Eventually, you're going to say, I don't want to do that anymore. And I also think that if you make a calculation that if you can be perceived as a solo act, really, that you can get paid at a certain level that you can't if you're not a solo act, then you'd like to be a solo act, or at least perceived that way.
From my understanding, it sounds like Stephen A. Smith was tired of losing. Sounds like Stephen A. Smith was tired of being outsmarted and embarrassed by Max Kellerman. To make matters worse, and you saw this in the clip to open this video, I think it bothered Stephen A. Smith that Max Kellerman was more respected than he was. More specifically, I think it bothered him that some black athletes had more respect for Max Kellerman. I think the downfall for Max Kellerman, and I actually respect him for this, he was not willing to be Skip Bayless. Max Kellerman was not willing to look like a dumbass so Stephen A. Smith could look like a star. In his interview with Bill Simmons, Max Kellerman used professional wrestling as an analogy. The reason Stephen A. Smith worked so well with Skip Bayless, they were the perfect combination of heel and hero. One was the protagonist, the other was the antagonist. It's the most basic premise for every movie and television show. Skip was more than willing to be the bad guy. He had no problem playing the role of the dumbass. Remember his obsession with Tim Tebow? Ooh, look at Timmy's arms. They're so manly. He's my hero. I have Tebow 413 tattooed on my ass. I can do all things through Tim, who strengthens me. Or what about his unhealthy obsession with LeBron James? LeBron James could donate $1 million to starving children in Ethiopia, and Skip Bayless would criticize him for not converting those dollars to Ethiopian breadcrumbs. Skip Bayless was willing to be the villain. He was willing to create heat. All Stephen A. Smith had to do was amplify the heat. As an entertainer, this was the perfect role for Stephen A. Smith because Skip was willing to discredit himself in the eyes of the audience to make Stephen A. look like a star. It's what every heel does in professional wrestling. They make themselves look bad so the chosen hero can look good. Without the heel, the hero is essentially useless. He has no one to conquer. With Skip Bayless, all Stephen A. Smith had to do was react. With Max Kellerman, Stephen A. had to prepare. He had to constantly be on. He couldn't get away with bombastic reactions, couldn't get away with overreactive theater. Whether he intended to or not, Max Kellerman, he was not afraid to make Stephen A. Smith appear to be wrong. He wasn't afraid to make him look bad. What ended up happening on First Take, the roles were kind of reversed. Max Kellerman became the star, Max Kellerman became the hero, and Stephen A. Smith was exposed. And that is the reason Max Kellerman was fired. He wasn't fired because he was bad at the job. He wasn't fired because ratings were in the pooper. Max Kellerman was fired because he wasn't willing to make himself look bad so Stephen A. Smith could look good. Now, First Take has transitioned from being a debate show to being the Stephen A. Smith show. Me personally, I quit watching clips of First Take on YouTube because I think the show is boring. It's Stephen A. Smith with a rotating panel of people who are afraid to piss him off. Think about it. When is the last time you heard anything about First Take? When Max was on the show, when Shannon Sharp was on the show, hey, it's me, Shay Shay! First Take was generating headlines in the media every week. We are nearly 4 months into the NFL season. We're almost 2 months into the regular season in the NBA. The only thing I remember about First Take is Stephen A. Smith accusing Drake May of being a liar, and not one panelist on the show standing up to him, questioning him. First Take is boring because you don't have anyone willing to stand up to Stephen A. You don't have anyone willing to piss him off because the last guy who did that got fired. Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys later.